Good morning. My name is Leslie McCullough. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm Caucasian and have shoulder-length blonde hair. I'm wearing glasses and a purple top. I serve as treasurer on the Board of Trustees in the Financial Working Group, and I'm a member of the AIM Committee. Welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness. No matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming, we greet you today with love.
My name is Chance Hunter, and my pronouns are he, him. I am white, have brown hair, and a black and white beard. And I'm wearing a dark blue shirt today. I'm also wearing hearing aids. I'm on the Committee for Ministry and the Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry team. We light this chalice in the spirit of liberation, honoring the many activists who said over and over that disabled people belong here with us. We give thanks for the warmth of this light and for all the great work done in the past 31 years since the Americans with Disabilities Act passed. We commit to the continuing work both in our nation's capital and here in our own community for access, inclusion, and human freedom.
The Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, protects people with disabilities from discrimination. The ADA was signed into law on July 26, 1990, following many years of advocacy by the disability and civil rights communities. Since then, the ADA has transformed American society, working to ensure that people with disabilities have equal opportunities. First Unitarian Church of Oklahoma City is working to make our services and events accessible to everyone. In fall 2020, the 1UC Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry, or AIM team, was launched with the intent to lead the UUA AIM certification process. AIM is a program created by Equal Access in partnership with the Unitarian Universalist Association. AIM's purpose is to guide congregations to equitably interrelate through intentional awareness, mutual support, and collaborative learning that focuses on disability and its impact in all lives. Over the past year, your local AIM team has been meeting monthly and has submitted the application with the UUA to begin moving through the certification process. Certification involves conducting workshops, projects, action plans, communication focused on accessibility and inclusion over several phases. We have already completed our first AIM congregational survey to gather important feedback on the current status of access and inclusion needs and resources in our church. We have also had an initial building tour with a prospective architect regarding making future changes to improve building and accessibility access. We appreciate and continue to need the congregation's support in these endeavors. Watch for more ways to be involved this fall. Feel free to reach out to myself or Wendy Pitt if you would like to join our team. Our opening hymn this morning is Unbound by Van Gogh, a group that, quote, "If the Beatles had come from Atlanta, they would have sounded like this," unquote.
It's a burden to be born. All the faces I have worn, lost in a pantomime. songs you played, selling my soul for a bad charade, but not this time. It's time to take the reins and break away the chains that are holding me. I am unbound. There's no stopping me. I am unbound. I want the world to see my hands in the air, my feet on the ground. I am unbound. Weak the smiles that condescend, no excuses could defend what you pretend. Brought the brush when you define, but I don't fit within the lines of your design. Tired of all the stale cliches, I will write the words I say out on this stage. It's time to take the reins and break away the chains that are holding me. I am unbound. There's no stopping me. I am unbound. I want the world to see my hands in the air, my feet on the ground. I am unbound. 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 Tell the world I am unbound. Blind the eyes that will not see, deaf the ear you turn to me, hard the truth that sets you free. All the heroes die, and the whole world cry. Black is white and white is gray. Colors run where shadows play and fade away. There is a dream of a promised land where all God's people walking hand in hand will understand. It's time to take the reins and break away the chains that are holding me. I am unbound. There's no stopping me. I am unbound. I want the world to see my hands in the air, my feet on the ground. I am unbound.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Wendy Pitt. Video. My name is Wendy Pitt. My pronouns are she, her, hers. and I'm Caucasian and have shoulder length, wavy blonde hair. I'm wearing red, thick lensed glasses and have on a purple shirt. Leslie and I did not coordinate. That just happened to happen. I am chair of our Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry Committee. I'm on the Welcoming Committee. I'm a member of the choir and have an active participant in our Fiber Arts Affinity group. Today's story is I Will Dance by Nancy Bo Flood.
All right, so time for all ages. Today we're going to read I Will Dance, written by Nancy Bo Flood, illustrated by Juliana Swaney. On my birthday, can't blow out the candles, not enough strength. But I have one wish, a pink tutu. I want to dance. She's at a birthday party and she's sitting there with her pink tutu. I could barely breathe when I was born. I was supposed to live 1 minute, maybe 2, not 10 years of minutes. I want to dance, but I can hardly move. Only my head, only my arms and fingers. I wonder, how does it feel to have arms that reach up so high, legs that walk, skip, run like other kids? Mom says, imagine you're dancing. I don't want to imagine. I want to dance. The teacher says, pretend you are dancing. I don't want to pretend. I want to move. I want to feel the music. Sway, swing, fly, over and under, together, not alone. I won't give up my dream of dancing. We will find a way. Mom reads in the paper, auditions for young dancers, all abilities, all ages, all are welcome. All? I am not sure. I'm not ready. I am safe in my steel chair. Stationary wheels, a motor, me. What if they stare, whisper, not you, can't move, can't dance, not her. But I can't help wondering, how would it feel? I read again, all abilities, all ages, maybe. I want to try. The sign says dance studio, 2nd floor. I roll into the elevator. Mom pushes the button. I roll out down the hall and then through an open door. I see the beautiful wooden floor, shiny smooth like a still pond, waiting for dancers, all dancers, with canes and crutches, walkers and wheels, bare feet, slippers, or calluses. Dancers, not imagine, not pretend. Welcome. I roll forward onto the dance floor. Join us. We are many dancers, one circle. We each past the touch. The instructor steps towards me. Her eyes meet mine. Her hand opens. She reaches, dances closer until her fingers touch mine. She nods. Something inside me changes. I turn to the person next to me. I lift my finger up, then down, swirl my fingers around. He watches, then reaches, echoes my movement, adds his own, passes the touch, and the circle is complete. We are all one circle. We move together. We move in together, out together. Again, we practice, practice, practice. Performance night, a belly full of butterflies, a dressing room full of dancers. My turn. I roll up to the mirror. Eyeshadow, lipstick, then blush. Now hurry, hurry, line up. Hiding in the wings, the lights dim, a hush falls. Music begins, swells, count the breaths. Breathe, heart races, hands sweat. Remember, remember the movements over and under and around each other. Swirl, glide across the stage, dance. Lights pour over us, pink and gold, circles of light, circles of dancers. Arms link and wheels connect. Arms link over wheels, connect into one shape. Expand, contract, faster, under, over. I roar, spin my chair, circle round, soar. Lights out, stop. Roll to the front. Spotlight on, listen. Clapping, whistles, and cheers for me, for all of us together. Dancers, not imagine, not pretend, not alone. I dance.
So today I'm going to be talking about ableism. Ableism is a form of prejudice and discrimination directed at a disabled person that assigns a lower value for that person because of their disability. It can be intentional, such as a former president mocking a member of the press who has a motor coordination impairment, or unintentional, such as not considering the needs of your friend in a wheelchair when choosing to eat at a restaurant only accessible via stairs. Ableism can be institutional, such as the regulations, laws, and social norms that operate under the assumption that disabled people are inherently less overall capable, less valuable in society, and/or should have less autonomy than is ordinarily granted to people of the same age. For example, recently an internal medicine residency training program in New York City lost 3 residents who died by suicide. The program tried to hush it up, even calling one of the deaths an accidental drowning, despite the resident previously giving warning signs and vocalizations of their depression and suicidal ideation. The program's solution to this problem was to give a course on sensitivity and add a couple of new games to the physician lounge versus addressing the chronic overwork, abuse, bullying, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and mental health stigma that plague our medical schools and residency programs. And ableism can be internalized. After being told by family, friends, peers, the media, and society long enough that you are never going to be good enough or equal, this thought can become pervasive and internalized into the individual with a disability. For example, every time I have a car accident, even if it is 100% the other person's fault, they say it's their fault. The cop says it's their fault. The insurance company even says it's their fault, and so on. I blame myself. I cry, I get emotional. I tell myself I'm a bad driver due to my vision. And I try over and over to tell myself that somehow that accident was my fault. This is internalized ableism. To help us better identify and confront the ableism in our own lives, I'm going to read some excerpts from a poem called Naming Ableism by Maria R. Palacios. She is a poet, a storyteller, a mother, a grandmother, an activist, a blogger, and the goddess on wheels. Ableism is when you say that I don't act disabled and expect me to take that as a compliment. Ableism is when whole is a word reserved for the able-bodied, or when you say that I'm beautiful despite my differences and fail to recognize that I'm beautiful because of them. Ableism is when you assume I'm single, when you assume I'm a virgin, when you assume I hate my body because in your narrow mind, how could I not? Ableism is when parents yank their kids away and tell them not to stare, automatically teaching them that disability is a dirty word. Ableism is when you tell me how inspiring it is to watch me work or cook. Ableism is our disabled lives played by non-disabled actors. Ableism is when disabled parents are told they should not have been parents. Ableism is when you feel that your baby is not safe with me, or when you pat me on the head as if I were a kid and call me cute. Ableism is a lifetime of isolation, segregation, a lifetime of untold stories, or of once upon a time there was a cripple who could, and for every cripple that could, there is an able-bodied person who should but doesn't. Ableism is leaving behind the imperfect ones, the ones that slow you down, that embarrass you. Ableism is the fact that we can embarrass you just by sitting in the same room. Ableism is thinking that I'm out of line for demanding human rights. Ableism is when you say how lucky I am sitting all the time while your poor able-bodied feet get tired. Ableism is you saying that, but deep down feeling grateful that you're not me. Ableism is how you believe that giving us new labels like physically challenged and differently abled is no longer labeling us. Ableism is making buses accessible, but not the streets leading to the bus stop. Ableism is when not even the back of the bus was available to us, and the unwritten pages of history, and how we have to become our own crip version of Rosa Parks every single day to this day. Ableism is when you tell ableist jokes and expect me to think they're funny. Ableism is how your version of funny becomes my version of painful. Ableism is saying there are no qualified disabled applicants. What you mean to say is disabled people who can pass as non-disabled are hard to find. Ableism is when you say I'm the only disabled friend you've ever had. Ableism is when you say that and still don't understand why we feel invisible. Ableism is when you think I don't have a disability because you can't see it. Ableism is expecting me to always be brave like Pollyanna. Ableism is thinking that if I'm in a bad mood, it must be because I'm disabled and I have a chip on my shoulder. Ableism is when you use my hearing child to interpret for you. Ableism is when you say it's not your fault that I'm disabled, but act as if it were mine. Ableism is asking my friends what I would like to order because you feel like you fear not being able to communicate with me. Ableism is when your disabled child is the only one that didn't get invited to the party. Ableism is when my basic rights are considered a burden. Ableism is you thinking that my asking for help gives you the right to decide for me. Ableism is when your curiosity invades my space, when your curiosity hurts, when your curiosity kills my cat and leaves me wounded. Ableism is when you pretend to care because you're paid to care, but deep down you don't give a Ableism is when you wish for a world without any disabled people, and you expect me to agree with you. Ableism is when you say that if you became disabled, you would want to die. Ableism is believing disabled people are better off dead. Ableism is when you turn your head the other way and say that your able-bodied privilege is not privilege and refuse to see that your privilege is the face of my oppression. I only have a few more stanzas, and these are my stanzas. When I read her poem, I was totally blown away, and I wrote my own poem, and this is only a few excerpts because I could go on, but I've just got a few minutes left. We can't have the service go forever. So this is ableism experienced. Ableism is asking for help when looking for something and being told, use your eyes, Wendy. Ableism is being told that you will never become a pediatrician because you can't do circumcisions. Ableism is repeatedly being offered psychiatry as the only possible specialty that I could possibly do without knowing me or asking me what I wanted to do. Ableism is defining 2020 as the threshold for admittance into the world known as normalcy. Ableism is despite me telling you in advance about my vision and limitations, writing on my evaluation, many feel that Wendy needs to have her vision checked. Ableism is other students telling me that it's unfair that I'm allowed extra testing time, despite accommodations being my right. Ableism is needing time off for an eye surgery, residents angry, accusing me of abandoning them, a director who must decide if she'll let me have a surgery, crying in human resources, unintentional discord, disharmony, pain be damned, vision still blurry, red eyes so ugly, no time off, no recovery, right back to work, productive I must be. Ableism is a fellowship interviewer asking if I'm able to drive, as if somehow that affects my ability as a subspecialist to thrive. Ableism is an employer demanding an eye exam, defining who I am, did not care to ask other pediatricians for this task. Ableism is PowerPoint slides, too busy to read for you, for me, too lazy to make proper handouts, you give me recyclable paper. Ableism is mental health strain, emotional pain, I need a day off, no learning can I gain, judged by others, I report in yet again. Ableism is an interim UU minister saying we welcome those of all races, colors, genders, sexualities, beliefs, creeds, and yet repeatedly leaves out me and my disability. Ableism is attending a church that celebrates diversity with Black History Month, Gay Pride Month, voices against injustices in the jail and Indigenous peoples, yet not once in the first 4 years was there a service, much less a month, honoring disabilities or celebrating others with visible and invis abilities. Now, Ingrid Young is going to lead us in our call to offering. Thank you.
Good morning. Every Sunday, we take an offering. Since 2002, all the cash and designated checks from that offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work in our community, our Change for Change partners. This month, our Change for Change partner is Freedom Oklahoma, Freedom Oklahoma works to secure lived equality and legal protection for lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender, and queer people through advocacy, public education, coalition building, and empowerment in the civic process. You may wish to make a donation using a credit card through our website, or this could be a good time to find your checkbook, write out a check, and put it aside to mail to First Unitarian on Monday morning. Let today's offering reflect our highest aspirations for the work of this church in the world. Our offertory this morning is Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell, sung by our own talented choir member, Kate Rotler.
The offertory is actually a different song. I'm sorry I didn't correct that. It's How Could Anyone, but it is sung by Kate. Sorry about that.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Please join us today in our responsive prayer by saying the words you see on your screen. Is everyone able to see the screen?
We're using the closed captioning to broadcast, but it does not look like it is working correctly. So we will put it in the chat.
Okay. Should I pause for a minute? All right.
Go when ready.
Please join us today in our responsive prayer by saying the words you see on your screen for all. Spirit of love, we pray for all your people. For people who are blind and cannot see, and for those who can see but are blind to people around them. Spirit, in your mercy, help us touch each other. For people who move slowly because of accident, illness, or disability, and for those who move too fast to be aware of the world in which they live. Spirit, in your mercy, help us work together. For people who are deaf and cannot hear, and for those who can hear but ignore the cries of others. Spirit, in your mercy, help us respond to each other. For people who learn slowly, for people who learn in different ways, and for people who learn quickly and easily, but often choose ignorance. Spirit, in your mercy, help us grow in your wisdom. For people who have chronic illnesses for which there is no known cure or relief, and for people who live in unholy fear of developing chronic illness. Spirit, in your mercy, help us and heal us.
Let's say there are typically around 100 people logged on for Zoom worship on any given Sunday. If the statistics hold, that means that 25 people are actively experiencing mental illness in one way or another here this morning. If we were back worshiping in person, you would either be sitting on a pew with someone with mental illness, or they'd be on the pew directly in front of or behind you, or on all three pews. If you are the person with mental illness, in which case you wouldn't be far at all from another person with mental illness. Please know that you are not alone here. We are everywhere, and we are here. Which makes it curious that in the US, we are expected to largely keep it to ourselves, even at church. I remember a time here several years ago. I was new in Daniel Hall after worship, talking to someone I'd talked to several times before, who I hoped would become a friend. We asked each other how we were doing. I mentioned something about work and how I was struggling a little with one or the other end of the bipolar spectrum I walk along every day. I wasn't asking for help, just casually mentioning a health fact about myself, like a runner mentioning a pulled hamstring. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal. But their eyes grew big as saucers. They backed 2 or 3 feet away, mentioned something about having to urgently be on the other side of town, turned around, and walked out of the building. I don't exaggerate. That happened here. People have places to go, but it didn't feel like they had to leave right then. I hope my perception was wrong, but that's how it felt. I'm thankful that when I came out from the bipolar closet from the pulpit earlier this year, the reception was far more congenial, welcoming even. Thank you. But that doesn't change the fact that in most churches, even Unitarian churches, no one brings your family a casserole when your family is experiencing a mental health crisis. Some close friends may offer support, of course, but most people would prefer not to know about it. And they prefer families experiencing mental illness keep it that way. The message our culture sends is keep that to yourself. That's 1 out of 4 of us expected to live lives of quiet desperation so that we don't impinge on the emotional privilege of the mentally healthy, even at church. There are exceptions, however, that we should lift up. At the Unitarian congregation where I worked several years ago, the associate minister in charge of pastoral care let us know one staff meeting the casseroles were being provided to 2 longtime members with bipolar disorder. Their doctors had overprescribed lithium for decades. They were having kidney problems and were recovering from surgery. But in my 3 decades of going into, being in, or just being around ministry, no other stories like that leap to mind. If there are more stories like that, I'd love to hear them, especially the ones that happened here. That associate minister was exceptional. She was trying to break down barriers and provide equitable care to the mentally ill in her congregation. We need all Unitarians to be allies at that level too. At that same church, I learned you can sometimes pressure people into being better mental health allies. The staff at that church was largely populated by proud workaholics. They were constantly looking for their next big ministry accomplishment and were happy to regularly put in 10 or 11-hour days, sometimes 7 days a week, to make it happen. I had just been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. We were going around the circle, and it became my turn to brag. As someone with bipolar, I can't put in days like that. If I'm depressed, 8 hours is a struggle. If I am putting in 11 hours a day, it means my meds for mania aren't doing the trick, and they need to encourage me to go see my doctor. I told them it would be best for my mental health if we didn't go around the circle bragging about workaholism again, and that I wouldn't be putting 11-hour days in, not on the regular. Whether it was because they realized they were wrong or because they were unwilling to abandon their self-image as cutting-edge mental health allies, it never happened again. It was an informal, unspoken accommodation of my disability, even though all it meant is that I would be expected to work only the regular 8 hours my grandfather's union fought and died for. But whatever their motivation, they rose to the occasion and were better allies. If you're interested in being a better mental health ally, there are some things you can do. First, check your privilege. If stories of persons with mental illness make you want to turn around and leave the building, instead of welling up your compassion and polite curiosity, you have work to do. I'll readily admit I'm not trying to make everyone feel comfortable today, but as persons with mental illness, we've been made all our lives to feel like we have a terrible secret to keep from everyone, when it's really just a health condition like any other. The mentally ill don't deserve to be the only ones suffering social discomfort over this arrangement. The arrangement does not benefit us. It only benefits the mentally healthy. It's going to take everyone feeling uncomfortable to work things out where they should be. Second, how much do you really know about mental illness? Have you spent much time reading about it? Or are celebrity mental health crises and secondhand stories your primary source of information? I challenge you to spend an hour over the next week, today if you can, it's the weekend, reading up on how to support a friend, family member, or coworker with mental illness. Google that for a good long while. Don't believe the first article you read. Some of them give bad advice. It is the internet after all, so read several of them. When reading their advice, ask yourself, would this help me if I was in a mental health crisis? Or would it push me further into silent suffering? I'll post one helpful resource I found in the chat. And to my fellow worshipers with mental illness, I say this: start speaking up. Start coming out. If it's not safe at work, I've only come out at work when I work at a church, then with friends and family, and here at church. It doesn't have to be the end-all be-all of coming out. Start small and work your way up from there. Whether you face mental illness or not, consider joining and supporting the work of the Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry team. There is so much good work to do. May there be many ready hands to complete it. However many obstacles we have to face as mentally ill persons, church is still one of the safer places to come out and be accepted. And we have work to do to make it more welcoming still. Together, this church can make it happen.
Our closing hymn is Over the Rainbow, What a Wonderful World by IZ.
like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you dare to, oh why can't I? Oh, someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like a lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dreams that you dare to, why, oh why can't I?
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of love and community which burns in our heart.
And today, we will close hear me?
Wendy, we've lost your video, please.
I know, I'm clicking it. It says unable to start. Can you hear me?
Restarting your video. Do you see the icon? Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I don't know if you can see me, but as long as you can hear me, because it's my dulcet tones that really matter. We will close with my favorite quote by the beloved Fred Rogers, known as Mr. Rogers. Each one of us is much more than any one thing. A sick child is more than a sickness. A person with a disability is more than a handicap. A pediatrician is more than a medical doctor. You are much more than your job description or your age or your income or your anything else. Remember that there will be a coffee, tea, soda, water, community sharing time at 12:15, I'm assuming. That's our usual time after the postlude. The postlude today is a flute solo entitled Yewa, the Goddess of the Willow Trees by Adolphus Hailstork. Yewa in Korean mythology was the daughter of a river god. The symbolic willow tree is considered a source of healing in Korean folklore and elsewhere around the world. Special thanks to Chris Gonzalez, who helped with all the videos today, and to Nathan Boone, who as always has helped with the ushering and other little IT things. Thanks to my co-leader Chance, and to Leslie McCullough and Ingrid Young for helping. We thank everyone for coming today.